Hello everyone, my name is Becky Finley and I'm host of the OhioRAAM show. I'm here in Jackson Hole, Wyoming on the Triangle X Ranch, enjoying this beautiful sunset. Welcome to the show.
Well, it seems like Becky is having an awful lot of fun out there in Wyoming. There seems to be a lot of laughter in the background. I just hope that she does at last get acquainted with a horse, and maybe if she's lucky, she might even get acquainted with a farrier. Well, you have to go back a few shows to see what that's all about. But Becky, have fun while you're out there in Wyoming. I'm Lee Kreider, producer of the OhioRAAM show, a show about UltraCycling, which comes to you 3 times a month on the 7th, 17th, and 27th of each month. We are a product of the good people who run the time stations for the Race Across America here in Ohio, 41 in Oxford, 42 in Blanchester, and 43 in Oxford. There are some new races I just found out about. Maybe you already knew about them, but I am interested in them, and let me tell you what I discovered. There is a new race in Sri Lanka called the Ride the Pearl, and it's just finished its second year. I see that it has become a RAAM qualifier, and I have been in touch with the race director, and we will have him on the show at some future time. Looks like an interesting race, and a new place, a new country coming in the UltraCycling scene. That's wonderful. There's another race. It's going to happen the first time. It can be either supported or unsupported. It will obviously be the most southern race in all the world until somebody sets up a race in Antarctica. It is from, well, let's see what it says here. It is from Puerto Varas, Chile, crossing the Chilean Argentina border 5 times and winding up at the southernmost point in the American continent. If you want to know more about these races, just go to the show notes, and there you'll find information on today's guests, some other things that you may find of interest in the UltraCycling world. They'll be right below the video if you're watching on the OhioRAAMshow.com website. If you're watching on YouTube, you'll see a link to the show notes in the description box. Well, enough of that. Let's get on with today's guest, Cara Gillis. Hey, Becky, how are you this evening?
Hi, Lee. I'm doing well. How about you?
Pretty good. Lee Kreider here, producer of the OhioRAAM show. Becky?
Hi, everyone.
Hey, Becky.
Sorry, Lee.
When you were down at the University of Miami University there in Oxford, which beautiful campus and so forth. Did you ever take a course in philosophy?
I did not.
You didn't? Ethics?
I did not. No. Unfortunately, I was in the sciences, and
you were a scientist.
Yeah.
That's the trouble with you scientists.
I know.
You just got your head in the test tube or looking at somebody's scalp or something like that. We have with us this evening a philosopher, a professor of philosophy, Cara Gillis. How are you, Cara?
Hi, good. How are you, Lee? Hi, Becky.
Hi, Cara. Thank you, Lee. Hi, Cara.
Hi.
Welcome to the OhioRAAM show.
Thanks for having me.
Good. So just a little bit, let's start with a little bit of background on Cara.
I live in Los Angeles, but I'm from Fredericton, New Brunswick, Canada. I was a rower my whole kind of young life, and I went to university to row. And then kind of towards the end of my collegiate career, I got a stress fracture in my back. And so the kind of requisite rehab for that was to ride a bike. But I mean, sitting on a trainer is no fun. Everybody knows that. So I decided to do a race. And I think I won or came top 3 maybe in the first race I did. And then I was hooked on cycling. So then I finished my undergraduate, and I kind of was thinking like, what do I want to do? And I really wanted to race bikes. And everyone said, if you wanted to race bikes, you should move to California. So I moved to California, where I promptly contracted mononucleosis, which put a big damper on cycling for a while. And then I was going to grad school here, and I started kind of racing more and more. I got on some elite teams. I had the chance to race in Europe with the Canadian national team, some development projects with them, all the while writing my dissertation. At the end of every season, I would kind of do these like longer things just because I wanted, in California, we never really have to get off the bike, but I wanted to get really tired, so I would feel like I needed to get off the bike for a while. So I used to do this race called the Everest Challenge that was always in September. And then I started doing the Furnace Creek 508 with my partner. And then through that, I met Joel Southern, who was looking for somebody to do a 2-person RAAM with. And so in 2012, I raced a full season with the Kenda Pro Tire women's cycling team. And then I also did 2-person RAAM. And then I got pregnant right after that. So now I'm trying to come back, and I really have this desire to try for solo RAAM.
So tell me, so you mentioned you did 2-person RAAM back in 2012. Tell me a little bit about your experience with that and how you guys did on that.
We won. We set a course record for the under 50. I think we beat all the 2-man teams also. So we were a mixed 2-person. It was really challenging. One of my favorite, this sounds so perverse, but one of my favorite things to do is sleep. I love sleeping. I love dreaming. But that was really challenging for me because I can't like get off the bike, change my clothes, lie down, eat, fall asleep, and then kind of do the reverse of that within 90 minutes. So I think I only slept like 7 hours for the entire 7-day race. I developed this, I've never stuttered in my life, but I developed this horrible stutter. And so it was just not the most amazing. I mean, it was great. It was like exhilarating, and I love seeing what kinds of stuff my body can do. But in terms of like an overall positive experience, it wasn't necessarily what I was after. And then
over 17 miles per hour, that was your average speed for RAAM?
I really have no idea. All I remember was Kansas was supposed to have a tailwind, and it didn't.
Oh, yikes.
I tend to like both really technical descending and grinding into headwinds. So Kansas is actually not like horrible, but just everyone kept talking about how Kansas will be so amazing. You'll have a tailwind. It'll feel like you're flying. And then there was just a lot of like, it was a cross headwind. And I remember I had to have one hand on the hood and one hand in the drop so I could lean my bike into the wind so I wouldn't blow out into. I think it was really cool. Joel and I had like very different strengths. I have, raced all over the world and was like really technically proficient. Like I said, particularly at downhilling. I'm 6 feet tall. And even though I'm like slim, I have a bone mass. So climbing isn't necessarily always my forte, but Joel is an amazing climber. And so we tried to like manage how we traded off within these kind of 90-minute sections.
Yeah. So you're 6 feet tall. Did you have difficulty finding bicycles to fit?
Yeah, I mean, on the teams I raced on, let's see, one year I raced on a team and we had these bikes by this company called VeloV, and they gave us these time trial bikes, and my femurs, I have like a 38-inch inseam, so my femurs are insanely long and trying to fit on their time trial bike. I had to do a lot of like clever positioning with the cockpit so my knees wouldn't. I have a really short torso too, so just having enough clearance for my femur to not hit the cockpit of a time trial bike is challenging. But I mean, luckily, like women specific things don't really work for me because I'm so big. But men's bikes are usually fine. The biggest struggle I'm having lately though is just since having kids, like everything's changed. Trying to fit the same way on my bike is.
So Cara, what's the plan for next year?
Well, we're talking about that, my coach and I. I am doing 508, like now the Silver State 508 in just under 2 months. And the training for that is going pretty well. I had pneumonia in March, which really, I was looking at my training profile of my coach the other day, and it was really depressing to see this massive loss of fitness. For next year, my initial plan was to do RAM. And I'm kind of on the fence between doing RAM and RAW. Just again, because I have 2 small kids, like smallish, and trying to figure out, and I work full time. I'm the chair of the philosophy department at Pierce College, just trying to like balance everything. I'm finding to be challenging. So we're going to make a decision probably in November about whether I'll do RAW or RAM. I'd like to do RAM, but if I'm not feeling like my preparation is kind of moving in the optimal direction at that point, then I think RAW is just a more.
I know you briefly mentioned some of the challenges of being female and being in the UltraCycling.
I have like issues with how my pelvis sits, right? Just how I was born and made. And so trying to find a saddle has always been an issue. I have a leg length discrepancy and a twisted pelvis and all this stuff. And then, so when I was racing regularly, it was fine. I could kind of fit on different things and it was fine. But since having kids and trying to find an ultra saddle that works for women is really challenging. And I've tried a lot of stuff. I've tried the Infinity saddle. I'm trying the Specialized Mimic saddle right now. I've basically gone through like every Specialized saddle they've ever made. I've tried that SMP saddle. I've tried all these different things. And it's just, there's so much research about men sitting on bikes for a long time. But there's not the same with women. And I think that Specialized is trying to do some things with this kind of mimic stuff. They're trying to listen to female riders. But it's like male and female anatomy is so different there that, let's just make a huge cutout. Like that's not necessarily going to work for everything. And I also think the variability of like female pelvis sizes is something that doesn't get considered enough. So that's difficult too. I also kind of realized that just my body type is very unique within female cyclists. Like there's a lot of Dutch female cyclists that are really large, but they're not on their bikes, for 40, 50, 60 hours at a stretch. And so just trying to find even clothing like bib shorts, because I am so tall, they often pull hard here. So just trying to, but then men's bib shorts aren't cut right through the hips. And I'm slim, right? It's just, our bodies are different. So just trying to find stuff. And also just trying to find stuff that has a ton of female reviews. You go to any like ultra forum and it's, 90% dudes talking about whatever saddle. So I'm like, I'll try that. And, there's not a lot of female feedback in a lot of these areas. And luckily there are women who do RAM every year and who share a lot of their knowledge, but there's just not the same volume, right? So it's harder to find a lot. Same with shoes, finding women's shoes. I have a big foot, but it's skinny. Finding women's shoes that fit right and will work for UltraCycling is also challenging.
Well, Cara, that was very insightful about female and cycling and the challenges we have in that area. You mentioned that you're vegan. How do you do that?
I've honestly never found that to be much of a problem. I've worked with this amazing registered dietitian named Matt Rufino, who actually just has a new book that came out on vegan athletes and like how to be a vegan athlete. But the protein requirement for most very, very active people is not as high as you would think it needs to be. So it's not actually that difficult. I think if you were, and like I'm not vegan like for health reasons, that's not the driving force behind it. It's environmental and animal reasons. If you were somebody that was trying to be like strictly plant-based for health reasons, you would have to be very aware of what you're eating. But like I eat Tofurkey and Beyond Meat and like kind of the tasty vegan snack foods. And those things have a ton of protein. Like I think one Beyond Meat sausage has something like 16 grams of protein. And if I only need, let's say like 70 or 80 grams of protein a day, then this is not an insurmountable number. So just making sure that eating just a wide variety of things, I think, is the biggest issue there. The hardest part was actually when I raced in Europe, all of the like fake meat things had egg whites in them for some reason. So they were vegetarian, they weren't vegan. And then it was challenging because I was mostly reduced to like buying giant bags of lentils and just carrying those around with me everywhere. But here it's pretty easy. And I'm actually kind of excited if I do RAM, because like Burger King has the Impossible Burger now, and Carl's Jr. has the Beyond Burger, and Del Taco has the Beyond Burger crumbles in their stuff. It's everywhere.
Mm-hmm. So how do you balance training and work?
I have a very, very supportive partner.
Okay.
I'm really, really fortunate. And we were both cyclists. Then after we had kids, he took up running in earnest, which with my first kid, I went from being like an elite athlete to hospital bed rest. Like it was a disaster. And so then that interim between the first and the second one, I didn't do, like I went to the gym a bit. I didn't do a ton of stuff.
Cara, thanks a lot for being on here. We had to interrupt Becky there. She has an allergy or something, and we'll get on with it. We really appreciate you being on here. We wish you well.
Oh, thanks for having me, Lee. This is fun.
I'm glad you think it is, and we enjoy it a great deal and have a lot of fun with it. Okay, well, Cara, once again, we thank you for being on the show. And
thanks for having me.
Thank Becky. Thanks a lot for being on the show, Cara. We wish you well, and we hope to see your name appear on leaderboards here and there as you rejoin the UltraCycling family. And of course, thank you, Becky, for doing another wonderful job of hosting the show. Thank all of you for view and support the show. Our next show will be on October 7th, and we'll have Leah Mez, I'll shorten her name, from London, who was the woman winner in the Trans-American race this year. We'll be looking forward to seeing all of you then in about 10 days. Goodbye.
Music by Kevin MacLeod.